right, so let's talk about the third house that I've bought this year. All right, this one is on 7 Hillside Avenue. And again, this one started with me talking. There's 10 steps to buying a house, getting to your closing, and the first step is to talk to people. With this house, I was talking on Facebook. I wasn't talking in real life. I was talking on Facebook. I was in a yard sale site and I was saying, hey, I buy houses, blah, 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 blah. Then the second step is ask for the leads. While I was saying, hey, I buy houses, I also followed that up with, does anybody have anything that they want to get rid of? Anybody have an unwanted house? Anybody have something that they don't want to deal with anymore? Because I buy houses. So, as I'm in this group, I'm talking to some people and I'm asking if anybody's got anything that they want, blah, 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 blah. And this is the same time that I'm working on the first 2 houses that we've talked about in previous videos. And so on my Facebook page for Whitney Buys Houses, because I'm a broker for Whitney Buys Houses and I was advertising these other houses, a lady sent me a message. And she said, hey, I see that you buy houses. I need you to call my son. And I said, okay, first tell me about the house. Where is it? Is it empty? Do you have it with an agent? And she said, no. No agents. It's empty. And she sent me the address, 7 Hillside. And I said, great. So I committed my first mistake in step number 3. Step number 3 is to follow up on the leads. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't follow up on this lead. In fact, I forgot about this woman. I forgot about this house. How embarrassing. People are sending me leads and I'm too busy closing on these other houses and hanging out and training people how to buy houses that I didn't follow up on this lead. But luckily, I kept talking in that Facebook group. I kept advertising these other houses. And she sent me another message. And she said, hey, what's the deal? I need you to call my son. I need you to, try to buy this house from him. And I said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about you. Okay, absolutely. Yes, I will do that. So that day that she reminded me, I got my little tail in the car and I drove over there and I looked at the house and I went, holy crap, this thing looks really good. This is like a really pretty ugly house. I was like super excited and kind of pissed off that I'd wasted 2 weeks not following up on this lead. So I immediately called her son. Voicemail. Played phone tag for a couple days. Finally, she sent me another message and said, I know y'all been playing phone tag, but I need you to talk to him. And I said, oh my gosh, I'll call him right now. This is so embarrassing, guys. Follow up on your leads. I called him. He answered. I said, I drove by the house. It looks really good to me. I want to make you an offer, but first tell me how much you want. That's step 4. Make an offer. He said, I really only want $10,000 for the house. I said, really? Because it looks like it's in really good shape. And he said, yeah, 10,000 would be good. And I said, okay, when can we sign the paperwork? And he said, well, I got to take a nap now. I'm working 3rd shift. I work all night. I get off about 7 in the morning. I said, ooh, I got to be at the gym at 7 in the morning. How about whenever you get off work, you just come over to the gym and we'll sign the paperwork there. And he said, okay. All right. So sign the paperwork, guys. That's step number 5. Sign the paperwork. If you have to go to the house, if you have to go to their office, if they'll come meet you at the gym, sign the paperwork. Once you've agreed on a price and you've, talked to them and you know what the offer is and you know what the deal is, sign the paperwork. So on this house, $10,000, I had like 45 days to give him some money or close in 45 days. So I basically had 45 days to come up with 10 grand. to buy a $30,000 or $40,000 house. Okay. We signed the paperwork, and step 6 is to advertise the property. So I got a picture of it. I put it on Facebook. I put it on Craigslist. I didn't put it on Zillow yet. All right. Because he still had stuff in the house, and because I hadn't set up a payment structure with him, I actually had to close him out. So I didn't want to like full throttle advertise this house, but I was just kind of gently advertising it. And I've got some friends here in town, so I sent them a message and I was like, hey, you're on my insider list. When I close on this house, I'll let you know first, and you can either rent to own it or rent it. Okay? So I was advertising it. Step 7 is to find the buyers. That morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, after he signed the paperwork, I sent a message to one of my friends here in town, and I was like, hey, I got this house. You can rent it. You can rent to own it, whatever you want to do. And they loved it. They want to know how much I wanted per month. I told them $400 or $500. They said, perfect, we'll take it. So I have a tenant already. I've got a buyer, which is almost as good as which is better than a tenant. A buyer is better than a tenant, but I had a tenant in place. So even if I had to put $10,000 out, I was going to be renting it for at least $400 a month. $400 a month, that'd be $4,000. That'd take me 2.5 years to get my money back. Okay? So, step 7 is I'd already found my buyers. I'd already found my tenants. I knew how I was going to be making money on this thing. I had 45 days to close. Okay? So, I'm out and I'm thinking that, I've got somebody in place that'll rent it. Maybe I could find somebody that would want to buy it and take on my renter so that it's the whole package together. Okay? So, I'm still out trying to find a real buyer even though I've got a tenant. Worst case scenario, I start renting this. I become a regular landlord. Step 8 is to renegotiate with the seller. And y'all, this is where the magic happens. This is probably my secret sauce. This is probably the best thing that you're going to hear today. Renegotiate with the seller on every single deal. All right? And sometimes your seller will want to renegotiate with you. So I'm at the gym. I'm advertising the property. I'm working on these other houses. I'm working with my coaching clients. I'm, just living life. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days after we signed the first contract for $10,000, which is this one right here, my seller called me and they were like, oh my gosh, Whit, you're not going to believe this. We haven't paid the property taxes on this house since 2015. They'd just gone over to the house and there was a sign in the yard that the tax sale was going to be coming up and that they had to pay up the taxes or they were going to lose the property to the tax sale. So he called me and he was like, we don't have 45 days anymore. We have to close this thing like Friday. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of pressure. I don't think I can come up with $10,000 by Friday because I had 45 days to do this. I could do it in 45 days. I can't do it in like 5 days. I said, if we have to close faster, how much will you take for the property? All right, so now I'm renegotiating. They have a pain. They want to sell the house. They want to get some money. They want me to have the house. They don't want it to go to some yahoo at the top tax sale. They want me to buy it. So I said, how much will you take? And he said, I've got to have $7,500. And I was like, oh, dude, no way. I can't come up with 10 grand in 5 days. I can't come up with 7,500 in 5 days. It's going to have to be lower than that. And by the way, how much do you owe in back taxes? He said, well, I owe $750 for last year and I owe like $300 something now. Total, I owe just over $1,000 in back taxes. And I said, well, I can't give you $7,500 and pay the back taxes. How about $4,500 and I'll pay up the back taxes? And he was like, ooh, man, no. No, I don't think I can do that. And we're in step 8 here, guys. We're renegotiating with the seller. He said, I need $6,500, definitely $6,500, and you pay up the back taxes. I said, that's still $7,500. That's $6,500 to you and $1,000 to the back taxes. That's $7,500. I can't come up with it. I can't do it. I said, how about you take $5,500 for the house? We'll close on Friday, and I'll pay up the back taxes. That way, I'll be in it for $6,500. You'll get $5,500. The taxes will get paid, and it'll all be good. And he said, okay, it's a deal. All right, so I renegotiated from $10,000 in 45 days down to $6,500 in like 5 days. Okay? Now we got to go to step 9 and collect the money. And I knew, because I already had my tenant ready to move in, I knew that they'd pay me at least $400 a month. I've done lease options. I know that I should be able to get $5,000 down as an option fee and rent it out for $400. If my tenant doesn't do it, I'll just get a tenant buyer in there. So I've already got my plan. And in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, Whit, you're going to have to pony up this money. We're going to have to actually come out of pocket on a deal. So I did. $6,500, gave my seller $5,500, paid up the back taxes for $1,000, and of course I paid closing again. I'm like $7,000 in this deal. I collected my money out of, where I've got other pots of change, and we went to closing. Now, this deal had an ugly, terrible, nasty closing situation, because when you're buying properties cheap like this, and especially if they're going to the tax sale, there's going to be a problem with the title. If it goes through the tax sale, you may never get a good marketable title. So that's one of the benefits. That's one of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and pay this guy. I wanted to go ahead and close before the tax sale, because I knew if I waited until after the tax sale, he wouldn't get any money, and he'd have no motivation to help me get a good, clear, marketable title on this property. So by paying him, I had his cooperation to get me a good, clear title. All right. We went to closing. We ended up actually closing escrow on Friday, which was, hold on, let me check my calendar. I have all this date stamped from my attorney. On Friday the 19th, I got the original $10,000 contract signed. And then on Friday the 26th, we closed escrow. I got the clear title. I got the uncle's signature signed off deed on the 30th, like an hour before the tax sale. This was a high pressure, intense closing, but we made it happen from the 19th to the 30th. Let me double check that. Oh no. The 19th was a Wednesday. We closed escrow on the 28th. I was looking at the wrong calendar. So the 19th of April was on a Wednesday. 28th was on a Friday. That's the day we closed escrow. We overnighted the quitclaim deed, got it back on the 1st. The tax sale was at 10. It was at 11 a.m. on the 2nd, and we got the deed back at 10, paid the taxes, closed it. My seller went by and got their check. They're as happy as little larks. That was a disaster. But what we kept doing, what we made it happen, is that we renegotiated, we worked together, and we got the deal done. I haven't sold this house yet. I have $7,000 in a $30,000 house sitting over here, and I haven't made any money on it yet, so I don't know what the final tally is going to be. But I'm pretty stinking excited and proud of myself for getting a deal done from the 19th to the 28th. That's like less than 10 days. We got a deal closed, funded, and closed, and got the final HUD on the 2nd. The 19th to the 2nd. I mean, I can get shit done by following these 10 steps. That's all it takes. 10 steps. You got to talk to people. You got to ask for leads when you're talking to them. You got to follow up on those leads, okay? Follow up on those leads. I've been doing this for 3 years and I failed at number 3. But then I got my butt in gear and we got it done, okay? Follow up on your leads. Make offers. Make offers. Absolutely. Make some offers. Sign the paperwork, all right? The paperwork, every contract I've ever seen has out clauses. If something went wrong, both of us, one of us could have gotten out. He wanted to get the deal done. I wanted to get the deal done because I already had at least one tenant lined up. When I start advertising this thing on Zillow, I'm going to be swamped with tenant buyers wanting to buy this house. Step 6 is to advertise the property. So I put it out on Craigslist. I put it out gently on Facebook. I sent it to some of my friends who I knew were looking for a house to rent. I advertised it. I found my buyer. In this case, I found my tenant. I knew how long it was going to take me to get my money back if I had to do a regular rental on it. And I still think I'll do a lease option on it if they decide they don't want to move into it. And I'll have my money back way faster. Step 8 is to renegotiate with the seller. Every deal I've told you about has come down to renegotiating with the seller. I can't stress that enough. Step 8 is just as important as step number 1. You have to talk and you have to renegotiate. Step 9 is to collect the money. In this case, I came out of money. I have money involved in this deal. I got $7,000 out there on the line. Step 10 is to close. This was a nasty closing. It took a lot of cooperation from me, my seller, my attorney, my seller's uncle, my seller's mama. All right, there was a lot of people involved. The tax office, there was a lot of people involved to get this thing to close. But we got it closed. We got it done. Signed, sealed, delivered in less than 2 weeks. You can do this. I hope less than 2 weeks from today, I've already got most of my money back or I've got tenants in place. And I'll be able to come back and tell you, I made money. But right now, at this point, I do, honest to goodness, full disclosure, have about $7,000 in this house. If I get somebody with $5,000 down, I'll have $2,000 in the house. And if they rent it for $400 or $500 a month, then in 4 months, I'll have all my money back and I'll be making money. And I'll be selling this house for $20,000 or $25,000 or $30,000. All right? 10 steps. That's all you need to close a deal. If y'all have any questions, let me know. Go to whitneynicely.com. I can teach you how to do this. I can't teach you how to talk to people, but I can yell at you until you start talking to people. You have to talk to people. You have to ask for the leads. You have to follow up on the leads. You have to make offers. You have to sign the paperwork. You have to advertise the property, find buyers, renegotiate with the seller, collect the money, and close. 10 steps. You can do this too. If you have any questions, send me a message or go to whitneynicely.com and get started being a real estate investing rock star. I know you can do this. Bye, y'all.